Hey there.
Oh, hi. I was paying no attention. How's it going, everybody? I'm Kira.
I'm Sammy.
Only my name is in the corner there, so
Yeah,
I'm the only
well,
one that matters.
Clearly. And it's under me, so.
It is, yeah. I mean, we look a little bit alike today.
That's because I'm wearing your makeup.
Oh, okay. That's why.
Yeah, dude, I have different makeup. As I was putting on your makeup, I was
Your makeup looks so dramatic.
I know. Well, that's because it's your makeup. My makeup is very subtle.
Does my face look as dramatic as your face?
Your face usually looks more dramatic in makeup.
Oh.
More dramatic makeup.
Oh, okay. I just thought I had a more dramatic face than you.
No, my face is pretty dramatic.
Well, welcome. Hello, everybody.
Hello. Happy Sunday.
Happy Sunday to everybody.
We have a pretty heavy show today.
I know. I'm really nervous about our show today, actually. I'm always nervous, just to be clear about that. I'm generally nervous about coming on the show because usually we're sharing information that I want to get straight and I don't want to mess it up. Even if it's like personal stories, it's like I'd hate to like mistell a personal story and cast somebody in some like ill light. Right. You know, the way my husband tells people I don't clean. Not true.
You know, there's always that.
But yes, but today is particularly heavy because we have a story that actually I caught wind of on hey, Heimdall's Gate. Welcome.
Hey.
A story I caught wind of on Friday on another show that I'm a part of called Hardlands Media. And I do the show on Wednesday nights with them. But I was watching the Friday show, and this woman came on the show who is a resident of Chicago, and she is protesting outside the Cook County Jail because her husband has just died of COVID-19. And that's devastating enough
in and of itself.
Itself. And I had already heard about numbers inside of prison skyrocketing, which makes complete sense. Prison cells and
there's no space for social distancing,
right? And so, like, obviously those populations are going to have like skyrocketing COVID populations, and that all made a lot of sense. But I think the devastating part of the whole story, and I don't want to give too much of the story away because I'm sure she's going to tell it so much better than I could, is how many times she reached out to officials, saying like, hey, I'm catching wind. My husband's letting me know that there are sick people in his block. Will you please check on that? And no responses, nothing was done. And she'll be telling us all about that and the details that go into that. And then also what we can do to help her out.
Yeah.
Because
so before we get into that too far, we've looked up a lot of numbers.
Oh my gosh. So Sammy, okay, so we have a little bit of a tradition since, like we don't really get to see much of anybody. Sammy's come over a couple Saturday nights, as you guys know, because we've done the show together. And last night she came over, and this morning we have been all over the internet.
All over.
Looking at numbers, reading, because we're both business owners. Sammy owns a therapy clinic. I own a movement and fitness company. And so this isn't really a topic that we specialize in necessarily. We're not sociologists. We don't do research on this necessarily unless it's like 3 hours before a show and we want to brush up on what we know on the topic and what we think is important to contextualize, and all of it just comes through the lens of, that we're in.
Well, and for me also, it's like the information I receive, because it's so much easier to passively consume the news. So like listening to the radio or listening to, speeches and press conferences and whatnot. But sometimes I feel that through anyone's lens, information can be skewed.
Well, through everybody's
lens,
because we're all human and we all carry around bias.
So for me, it's like I want to look at it through my own lens. So for me, that means looking at the numbers as they're reported and making my own decisions based on that. So I guess what I really want to do today is just kind of report some numbers.
Yeah. And it's interesting because I feel like this conversation is going to go all over the place because there are so many numbers to contextualize that I find important.
Well, and it's so complex and deep. I mean, we can ask so many questions, so many things. We tried to research this morning. I'm sorry, I have something in my eye, so I might be picking at that for a little bit. But so many things we researched this morning, we just couldn't find. Like there's just information that I am very curious about that I just can't find the numbers to. So in that case, you kind of have to trust what's being said. And I'm not a very trusting person.
Well, I mean, the other piece of it really, a lot of this also sprouted, the conversations we're going to get in today is from a conversation we were having with our mom. Because, our mom gets her news from completely different sources than we get our news.
Reputation.
And so we don't want to just brush it off as if that's not information, A, that's being spread, or B, information that we maybe shouldn't have curiosity or interest in. So and then what numbers do you talk about, right? Because today our guest specifically, and as many of you know who do follow the show, we usually try to theme our shows based on who our guest is and what they've come to talk about. And so today our guest has come to talk about death in the prison system right now due to COVID and the outbreak. And so it's like, so first of all, we're talking about COVID, which everybody seems to be talking about, and everybody seems to be having different numbers around. So that in and of itself could be a whole hour show. Trust us, we will spare you.
Yeah. Well, in sparing, let's jump into
Okay,
the numbers.
so let's go there then first.
So,
we'll try to organize this as best as we can.
Right. Okay. So, I looked up some averages I've heard a lot of people compare coronavirus to the flu. It's not as bad. It's not as severe. Why are we worrying about quarantining? Like, everyone's going to get it, just like the flu. Let the people die who are going to die.
It was very much a part of our mom's argument as well,
People
and our mom lives in Iowa.
Yeah, people die from the flu every year. So I looked up these numbers. Okay, so average, I looked over the past 10 years, average deaths annually in the United States from influenza is 34,571.
34,571 from influenza every year in the United States.
In the US.
Okay, got it.
Okay.
12 months.
12 months.
Span.
Yep. COVID deaths in the US so far.
Yep. Since it entered the US, which we know earliest cases are what, January?
January.
Okay.
And that is 64,283. So nearly double.
Nearly double in 1/3 of the time.
In 1/3 of the time. Yep. Okay,
so that's pretty serious.
That's pretty serious.
And we're talking deaths.
Right, but then you mentioned the healthcare system. So the healthcare system in the United States is
questionable.
Unworkable.
Completely unworkable,
in
to
some
put it
people's
nicely.
opinions. In other people's opinions, it's totally workable. So
I love my health insurance.
Yeah, your husband works for the government.
Yeah, but even still, I think it's outrageous. So, I will still bitch about it.
So, worldwide, I looked up worldwide because I was like, okay, let's look at those numbers. Average worldwide deaths from the flu each year, 470,000.
Wow, that's a lot of numbers.
That's a lot. Yeah,
that's a lot of numbers.
470,000
470,000 of them
die worldwide from the flu every year, on average. COVID deaths so far worldwide.
Let me get out my calculator because this is going to take calculating, right?
238,628. And this is getting updated every second.
That's that's about half.
That's about half.
For number's sake, let's just say it's half.
Yeah, so half.
It's a little over half.
A little over half. So in worldwide, 470,000.
Each year.
12-month
span.
COVID worldwide, 238,000.
We're halfway there, a third away through the year.
Yep, we're halfway to the number of flu deaths in a third of the year. But in the
US, we done fucked up.
But in the US, we have doubled our flu deaths. Worldwide, we're halfway to the number of flu deaths from COVID. In the United States, we have doubled.
I make jokes like that where I say, I look at the camera and I say, we done fucked up, and I laugh. Because I have it's not devastating.
Yeah.
And what I've noticed since I've been on camera more and more since August, when I started doing Heartlands Media regularly, is that I have this reaction of laughing at horrifying things.
Well, what else are you gonna cry?
I just want to put that put that out there to our audience members because
we don't think it's funny. Kira and I laugh because it's more productive than crying.
And it's really uncomfortable. I laugh when I do this really uncomfortable laugh when I.
Oh, I totally laugh when I'm uncomfortable. Definitely, yes. I get in trouble for it a lot.
Well, I do too, which is why I'm pointing it out. And I don't want to get in trouble for it on this because this is pretty serious stuff.
It's very serious.
Our mom, if our mother gets COVID, she's in big trouble.
Well, yeah, she's got.
If my in-laws get COVID, they're in big trouble.
Yeah. And so speaking of that big trouble, something else our mother was pointing out. This is anti-mom show.
No, it's not. We love our mother, even though she's a little right-wing.
We disagree with her. And we love her.
I adore my mom.
And so
that's
something she was pointing out was
wouldn't rather have another mom.
Something she said is that the numbers seem so high in the US because now they're saying that people who have died from a heart attack or a stroke, they've died from something else, but because in their autopsy, they tested positive for coronavirus, they are attributing the death to coronavirus, and that is jacking the numbers up, which she says is an attempt to get the president out of office. So we're jacking up the numbers artificially in the US to make us look bad and change the political system. It's a leftist conspiracy.
And there's a part of me when I listen to her, when I listen to mom and our family members kind of in general, and myself and you, I definitely hear a distrust in authority in general, in media overall, for sure, you know, because like I don't consume television like at all. I mean, you know, I didn't know how to work the television last night when we were trying to turn it on. I just don't watch TV really like, I'm being very serious. I watch stuff on my phone, which you make fun of.
I
all
do make
the time.
fun of. Okay, I come over to like watch TV with her, and instead of turning on the TV, she pulls something up on her phone and sets it up. I'm like, dude, that's not watching TV.
It's watching TV to me. So anyway, but our own mom says to me, while we're on a 3-way call the other day, like, well, you need to stop watching the mainstream news and the television news. And I'm like,
she's like,
you think
I don't
you're
even know
talking
how to
to
turn on my television. We tried to turn on her TV last night. It took 3 of us to figure out how to turn on a TV.
And a baby.
3 hippies and a baby to turn on a TV.
3 hippies and a baby to turn on a television. Well, and I feel like the most granola of the 3 of us was the one who was able to do it.
Yeah.
And she was the one that brought over the PlayStation.
And the baby. Okay, so based on mom's report that you know, they're artificially jacking up cases, then I wanted to look at, okay, is it reasonable to say that coronavirus is killing people in ways that are not respiratory? Because we've all heard this is a respiratory illness. The shortness of ventilators is why people are dying. Heart attacks and strokes are just like, they're just artificial numbers.
Mm-hmm.
So I looked up that. And what I found was in an article posted in the description. This is from the Washington Post, so take that as you will. That a particular danger of actually, let me start the other direction. The virus also may be damaging. Yeah, right. Well, I put it in backwards, so now I have to read it backwards. So the virus may also be damaging the heart. Clinicians in China and New York have reported myocarditis, an inflammation of the heart muscle, and more dangerous irregular heart rhythms that can lead to cardiac arrest in COVID-19 patients. In a subset of COVID-19 patients, now this is disjointed and pulled from an article. In a subset of COVID-19 cases, researchers have found the immune system battling the infection goes into hyperdrive. The uncontrolled response leads to the release of a flood of substances called cytokines, that in excess can result in damage to multiple organs. So this protein is being formed. They're finding that it's elevated in people positive with coronavirus by testing their urine. To see that these proteins are elevated, and an elevated level of these proteins can apparently attack your organs. Mm-hmm. A particular danger of the virus appears to be its tendency to produce blood clots in the veins. So the elevated levels of this protein can cause blood clots in the veins and other vessels, which can break off, traveling to the lung and cause death by a condition known as pulmonary embolism, or can travel to the brain and cause a stroke. So they actually found that also 34% of autopsies from deaths of coronavirus show kidney damage and coronavirus particles like that. They actually found the virus in the kidneys. Okay. So it's not that like these people were already dealing with kidney.
Yeah, because that would be my curiosity. Yeah. Like, okay.
No, they found the virus in the
That's
kidneys.
Rough.
Yeah. 40% of people infected have had arrhythmias, which I'm kind of like, well, how many people walking around have arrhythmias anyway? I have an arrhythmia. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so many people have them.
A lot of people
just undetected.
I work in fitness. A lot of people have arrhythmias.
20% have had cardiac injury, like actual demonstrated inflammation of the heart upon autopsy. So this is like organs are being looked at. The virus is in these organs. The organs are inflamed.
So okay. So just to be clear, so you're saying that these numbers are where this is the percentage of people where the virus was found in these organs.
I'm not sure if they were actually found in the heart. It did say that the virus was found in the kidneys of the 34%. Okay. It was in 9 out of 30.
Yeah, but and 40% of people infected had. Okay, so these are the people who died, right? and 40% of them had arrhymnias.
Yep.
So we could probably say, I mean, shit.
I mean, we could probably say
what percentage of the population have
I'm
arrhythmia?
like 40% of the population fucking has arrhythmias. So, okay.
Well, or if that's not the case, if it's not 40% of people who have arrhythmias, which we could probably look up real quick right now.
Yeah, I'm not gonna take that time.
Arguably, you could say if you have an arrhythmia, let's say, I'm going to just bullshit. Let's say 15% of the population has a heart arrhythmia, but 40% of people who died had heart arrhythmia. So we can arguably say that if you have an arrhythmia, you're more likely to die.
You're more at risk. Or we could say that the COVID virus is causing increased arrhythmias. It could go either way.
Oh, okay. I guess it could go either way.
Yeah, that could go
That's
either
why I'm
way.
not a scientist, folks.
So, but seeing that people are having inflamed hearts upon their death, that, that 34% of them are showing kidney damage. I read about so many people who are not showing the typical lung symptoms or respiratory symptoms, but are being put on dialysis because their kidneys are failing. And so hospitals are running out of equipment to keep people on dialysis because they only have so many machines. And now there's an uptick in people who need dialysis suddenly at the same time as coronavirus. So I would say that, there were a lot of things I couldn't find. I couldn't find specifics on people who have died of stroke and heart attack. If anyone can find specifics on people who have actually died, send them to me, because what I want to look at is
a stroke or a heart attack, not people who died
of coronavirus.
Of coronavirus.
Both
who had
heart
those
attack or stroke and coronavirus positive. Because I want to see.
There's no way those numbers exist anywhere. I mean, maybe
they exist somewhere in a lab. They don't exist on the internet.
Okay, yeah. Well, if they don't exist on the internet, they don't exist.
Okay, so because my curiosity is like people between the ages of 30 and 50 who don't have any prior health conditions, don't have heart disease, are healthy people dying of stroke and heart attack, and also testing positive for coronavirus. I would say that, considering that the types of strokes that I read one on someone who's 44, generally healthy, no pre-existing conditions, died of a stroke that normally someone in their 70s would die of. So I want to know, like, how many people in their 30s and 40s are dying of things that people typically in their 60s and 70s die of, like in increased numbers. But that was what I couldn't find. So it still leaves a lot up to interpretation about, like, are you going to choose to believe that they're reporting any positive COVID patients who die as being COVID deaths? They're just uptaking that, even though they died of something completely unrelated that just happened to also have coronavirus.
Right, but you'd be willing to believe that without any actual reporting on numbers, which is I guess fine, but like really, if we're saying there are no numbers of, then basically what you're doing is you're stepping into, like, okay, well, I'm going to choose to believe this out of probably just distrust for the government. And if you believe that the government, like the Democratic Party is so like corrupted and evil, which I do kind of believe the Democratic Party is corrupted and evil, but that's a conversation for another day, that they would in fact,
or another show.
Another show for sure.
Subscribe to Heartlands Media.
I think that basically whatever people are choosing to believe is likely based in their own biases,
right? And
what they want to believe.
Do you trust
at this point.
Do you trust or distrust the government, and therefore believe that?
But that's not even true either. Because I distrust the government, and
Yeah.
I still believe that people are
Okay.
dying.
I was going to say, do you distrust the Republicans? But you distrust the Republicans. Do you mistrust anyone on the left side?
Anyone on the left?
Anyone and everyone on the left.
Most people, yes. Most everybody I
Right.
distrust on the left.
And still, you're willing to believe that coronavirus is what is causing this uptick.
I think
these elevated levels, like the United States being at double the influenza deaths, while the world in whole is at half.
Well, I also, like, one of the things I pointed out to Mom was, like, I have friends in the healthcare industry who are all over the internet saying, hey, stop bullshitting. This is for real. I was not trained to deal with this. This is bullshit. Stay in your house for the love of God. I want to see my family, and it's like, and I'm scared. And so it's like, I look at those and I'm like, okay, well, I'm more inclined to believe that this is a reality because of the people that I know in my personal life who I don't think are in cahoots with the elite and the government.
Right.
Like our cousin Elizabeth was one of those people who posted that on her page.
Right. So I also want to share, we have our guest coming on soon. And
oh, I know. We have so much more to talk about.
I know.
Holy buckets,
but
you guys.
Your numbers very well fit into
our conversation with her, too. Yeah, okay.
So I read a Breitbart article, John Nolte from North Carolina, who said that, where he's living, a small county in North Carolina, the curve is already flattened. So why the hell are we still in quarantine? Like, they say it's to protect our hospital systems from getting overrun, but like in our small counties in the United States, hospitals aren't being overrun. Like, cut the shit. That's
what our mom said.
Conspiracy.
Well, because she also reads Breitbart.
Yeah. Right. Well, Mom also lives in Davenport, Iowa.
She also lives in Davenport,
where there
Iowa.
have been 7 deaths.
And I had mentioned to Mark, I was like, well, my mom said that she drives by 3 hospitals and there aren't any cars.
Nobody there.
And Mark's like, well, that's because nobody's allowed to visit the hospital.
Yeah.
And so it's like, oh, well, I guess that's a good point too. I mean,
yeah.
What the fuck?
People saying they aren't driving themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what we had talked about was that, when you open up quarantine in these small counties and not the larger cities, you have a risk of spreading it. I know someone who's went from Chicago to a small county in South Carolina.
It was just like yesterday, right?
It was last week.
Last week, even worse.
Hang out with a group of people.
The shelter place hadn't even been congested at that point.
Who are in their 50s and 60s and 70s. And it's like, well, what did you just bring with you to this small county
from one of the main hubs, from what I understand, is Chicago.
So something you have to be aware of is that, the quarantine it can be for the sake of saving the hospitals from being overrun, to, ration our supplies and resources. And you can also consider that if you're out and about, you're putting other people's lives at risk. Because even if I interact with someone and I'm carrying coronavirus and I don't know it, and I give it to this person and they're like, cool, it's my choice to go out and infect myself if I want to. But then they're seeing someone else who then delivers groceries to their sickly parents. Mm-hmm. Now their parents are dead, and that's because you chose to do whatever the fuck you want. So what he was saying in this article was not that. He was saying
that was not what he was saying.
He was saying, for those of you who want to quarantine, keep quarantining. For the rest of us, we should be able to do whatever the heck we want.
Well, and his main argument was get back to work, which is why I was like, who is this guy? I want to make sure that he's not like some CEO that's writing it.
The economy is crashing because you're staying home.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, it is.
It is.
It's in free fall. And we live in the richest country there ever was. And you would think we would be prepared for something like this, especially from what I understand. Again, I'm not a scientist, but from all the articles I'm reading, which I've been reading a lot, it's like, the last bird flu should have been supposedly a warning sign. And instead, we cancel our endemic department, whatever the hell it's called. I mean, genius, right? And it's like, yeah, that was the Trump administration, but we also have leaders that are just not fighting, and that's really the problem, is there's no opposition right now. Yeah. So not to get too far into that, again, another day, another show.
Well, we have more numbers, but our guest is here,
and Cassandra is here. So you know what? Let's go ahead and bring her in, because this conversation is going to go all over the place.
It's going to go all over the place, and you have numbers in front of you about the prison system.
I have a ton of numbers about what's going on in prison right now. So actually, Let's go ahead, Jerome.
Hey.
Hi. Hello, everybody.
Hello. Welcome to the show. It's so good to see you.
Thank you. It's good to see you, and thank you for having me. I'm sorry. I'm outside. And
yeah, where are you right now?
You know, I'm protesting in front of Cook County Jail where my husband contracted this virus. So I don't want this to happen to another family. So I'm out here daily, and I have great people that came out in support of my husband and the other inmates that's still inside.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And you're all keeping social distancing, I take it?
I'm sorry. Can you say it one more time? I'm sorry.
I said you're all maintaining social distancing, I take it?
Yes. I took off my mask just so you guys can hear me. I have it right here in my hand, I promise.
Actually,
we brought our masks.
We're like, maybe we should do this in our new Corona fashion.
Oh, whoa.
I know, right? A new accessory in America.
Yes.
Mine is
unfortunately,
like floral. I really love it.
Oh, I like it.
Right?
Yeah.
So, you know, I don't even want to show you guys mine. This is just horrible.
Well, I'm seeing you on Tuesday, and that's a little bit of what I wanted to get into with you is basically like, okay, so what happened, and then go into like what we can do. But I actually have a pipeline on that, so I can bring you. I'll bring you a mask on Tuesday.
Oh, you are wonderful.
Yeah, at least you can like look good while you're out there fighting the fight, you know?
Yes.
So tell us, Cassandra, you know, I heard your story on Friday on Hardlands Media. And I'm so grateful they had you on the show because
me as well.
It made my heart hurt. And, you know, gratefully I wasn't on the show that day because I had a good cry about it. And I'll do my best to not cry because I cry a lot.
You are a crier.
I'm a crier. And
me as well.
And so, you know, I listened to your story and I was heartbroken. And there was just something inside of me that was like, I have to help this woman and I have to help this cause because this is fucking serious.
It is.
And so I want to hear what happened. Tell us the story as you know.
Okay, sweetheart. First of all, thank you once again because this is my mission now. My goal is to tell my husband's story so everybody can know. So this will not happen to another person.
Mm-hmm.
My husband's death could have been prevented had one person, just one, would have just answered the phone for me and took me serious and took his life serious. It started the second week, I want to say around the second week of March. My husband was not sick at all.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't have any ailments. He had just arrived February 4th to the Cook County Jail from the Federal Bureau, the Metropolitan Correctional Center. So he was only here to put in a motion to go to trial, then he was going back. But because of the pandemic, they stopped all movement and he was basically stuck. So they changed his court date from March to April 22nd. He began to notice that it was two gentlemen on his tier that were really, really sick. And let me just tell you guys, my husband was not in a cell. He was in a dormitory unit with an open space with 50 other gentlemen. So he was in an open space. There was no way that he could social distance or self-quarantine or anything. But he wasn't sick. So when he saw that the two gentlemen were getting sick, I was keeping him abreast to what I would see Mayor Lori Lightfoot saying on TV and Governor Pritzker and the CDC. So as I was telling him the symptoms, he was saying, Cassandra, these two gentlemen, they possess those symptoms. I said, well, don't worry. Just try to stay away from them. I'm not saying that they wasn't human, because when I started to call, I was calling to get them help as well, either to get my husband moved or to come and help the two
them out, right? We know they're sick, right?
Right. So this was the second week of March. So we started going into the latter days, and he started to notice that the gentlemen were rapidly getting sicker and sicker. So I'm beginning to panic, but I don't want him to know that I'm panicking because I don't want him to get him worried, to make him worry. So I'm just telling him, don't worry. I'm going to keep calling. I'm going to get you moved. My husband even went so far to find a cell on a lower level. I believe it's like on one or two, the second deck, that was by itself, so I can tell the sergeant whenever I spoke with one that it's empty cells down there. Can he please go to one? So I continued to call as I'm
It's
calling.
like problem solving for them.
Yeah.
Come on.
You're trying to find the solutions that they should be trying to find.
That they should already know about because they run a fucking prison.
That's right.
Okay.
That's right. So I continually called to no avail. No one answered. Finally, on March 28th, a correctional officer, she did answer the phone. She informed me that due to the pandemic, they were short-staffed. There was no one that I can speak to right now, no sheriffs, no anything. There were no social workers in the building. They were home quarantining. So I didn't really know what to do. So she said she was going to take my number and have someone to call me back in 24 hours. That never happened. From March 29th until April 6th, until my husband was finally taken over to John Stroger, no one in Division 8 ever answered the phone again. No one answered at Tom Dart's office. And I called also CERMAC, which is the hospital right behind me on the jail compound. You can't speak to anyone. You have to leave a message. Someone did call me back from there, but she informed me that because I was not an inmate or an employee, that she could not talk to me. So I said, ma'am, please. I said, please, can I just tell you something? She said, I can listen to you, but I cannot tell you anything. I went on to tell her that my husband was in Division 8. He was on 3F. It's two really sick gentlemen over there that showed, I'm not a doctor, so I couldn't diagnose, but they show the symptoms of the coronavirus, and I'm afraid, is there anything that she can do to help me? She informed me that every division here at the Cook County Jail have a nurse. And if a nurse felt as though an inmate needs to come to CERMAC, they would send them. I said, ma'am, according to my husband, I don't even know if a nurse has been on his tier, because if they had, they would see that these gentlemen were really, really sick. Because right now, as I'm speaking to her, my husband had just informed me that one of the gentlemen was so weak, he couldn't even get up to go to the bathroom. The inmates had to help him. She told me rudely, once again, if a nurse thought that an inmate needed to come to CERMAC, they would send him. So I received no help from her. I solicited the help from his attorney. The attorney started to call to no avail. So I'm panicking now. I come to the jail. I can't get in. Everything is locked. No guards that's walking out is helping me. I'm just trying to speak to anyone now. So to make a long story short, my husband's first symptom was March 29th. He called. He said he had a sore throat. I told him, do not worry. It's just a common cold. Continue to wrap your face and your nose with your t-shirt. Wrap the phone with your t-shirt. Don't use that same t-shirt once you're done wrapping it with the phone. Just don't worry. Keep praying. I'm praying. I'm going to keep calling. So now I'm calling excessively to no avail. No one is there. To make a long story short, my husband, they finally took him from March 29th. It went from a sore throat to a fever, from a fever to chills, from chills to loss of smell and taste, to just 100% weakness, to where so he couldn't talk to me on the phone for 30 minutes. He had 10 minutes tops, and I would just tell him to go and lay down.
Oh my God.
When he arrived at John Stroger on April 6th, Monday, he was already in a severe state of the coronavirus, COVID-19, and he passed away April 12th at 4:20 a.m. I was blessed to speak with him Saturday, the 11th of April at 7:30 p.m. And it was just a blessing because I was able to tell him how much I love him, also to tell him to keep fighting for me. But God saw fit.
Yeah, that's devastating.
That's devastating.
Yeah. It's a devastating story. I can't even imagine all the spaces that you've had to go through inside of all this. And, you know, it's particularly maddening because we were talking about influenza numbers versus COVID numbers. And one of the reasons that, you know, the flu can be taken care of so quickly is because people get sick. And there's indications that they're sick and they tend to stay home. That's one of the many reasons, right? Of course, there are other reasons, but like to have people who are clearly sick during a global pandemic and have someone like shining a light on it. Also, it's like it feels a lot like they don't give a shit. And you know, like I'm not there. I can only listen to the story and make conclusions based on my own humanness and my own understanding of how illness works and how this virus works. And you know, and That's very much how it feels. Now, of course, my mind runs through all of the justifications, right? Well, there's nobody in the offices to answer the phones, blah, blah, blah.
True. And I would like to point to what Heimdall
said, one of our viewers
says, this is the actual disagreement with government-run healthcare. We know what government-run systems are like. They're run like the jail. Government systems are run like the jail. Nobody cares enough to staff things.
Unless it's the military, though. And that's sort of my point, where it's like, this is a national security, because people are dying.
Yes. Yes.
But Cassandra, we didn't get to go through all of the stories we prepped before having you on as a guest, but I would love to have you walk through these numbers that I found from May 1st reporting for 2 days ago about COVID in prison systems now, and also have you comment on anything that we go through inside of these numbers. So Rome, I sent you a link.
Okay.
Would you go ahead and bring that up, and we'll start going through, because what I found in general, Cassandra, and I don't know how much you've looked into this, but they're finding basically that about 70% of inmates who are being tested at this point have the coronavirus.
Yes, they do. Yes, they do.
That's staggering. Those are staggering numbers. And, again, bringing up the regular flu, influenza, prisons also prepare for the flu every year because they manage systems where people are in enclosed spaces together. And so to not be prepared for this is a staggering failure. So Heimdall's Gate is right. And I want to go ahead, Cassandra, you have something to say.
You know what? I don't want to sound so negative, but you know what? I wonder if it's not the fact that they wasn't prepared. How about they just didn't care?
Yeah.
Because let me tell you why. I feel that way. Because my husband said that when the other inmates would try to tell the guards to look at the two sick gentlemen, the guards were scared to come on the tier. Mm-hmm. They would roll toilet paper in for them. They wouldn't come through the doors. So
I'm not getting it.
Right. I don't want to get it. And guess what? I understand them as humans, but my thing is, that's where I'm stuck. What am I supposed to do as a family member if everybody's at home quarantining? Who am I supposed to call? What options do I have? And people will never know the agony of having your loved one call you daily that's alive and well, that's trying to prevent it. And you go through all of these different steps with this person because now they don't have it. They're trying to get away so they won't get it. Then they come down with one symptom. Then here comes another one. And your heart is breaking. You're desperate out here. And it's no one to help you. This will haunt me for the rest of my life because no one knows the conversations that we had daily when we were trying to help each other to save him. So it's like he's gone. And I pray that he's at peace. But this is total agony for me. Yeah. I will remember those conversations. Those were the worst 15 days of my life.
Yeah. And you're spot on that they just don't care. If you look at the way, our government systems are run like businesses. It's profits at the expense of people, profits over people. So when it costs money to separate prisoners, when it costs money to have nurses rotating in jails, when it costs money to have the administrators answering all of the phone calls and responding.
That's right.
It's that age-old. There's an age-old proverb that says, "Look at your budget, you'll see what your values are."
Yeah,
that's right. That's right.
And unfortunately, in America, like I said, the richest country there ever was. We have double the death right now in a third of the year as the flu in a year. So the flu killed 34,000 in a year. COVID has killed 64,000 in 4 months. And it's like, we're doing worse than any other country, and we're the richest country there is. And so there is clearly, regardless of the personal actions of the guards, it goes from the micro all the way to the macro. Right?
That's right.
And really, I also, I want to dive into, and I don't know if Jerome found that link yet, but I want to dive into the prison system, because this is actually a topic that I have been passionate about for my entire activism organizing life. That and tax dodging. Those are my two, like, rah, you know. And so again, I feel like, you know, it's one of the reasons your story spoke to me, because, you know, we're community members, you know, and I saw your story and I was like, like that doesn't happen in my community, right? And so then I started looking into these prison numbers, and what's happening is staggering. So Jerome, go ahead and scroll on down. So there's a rampage of coronavirus through the prison systems. So basically, I need to look at my phone. So I apologize. And people are pausing. I'm looking for your pause. Oh, look at that.
Thank you, Jerome. You're the best.
Heck, so it's rampaging through the country's jails and prisons. As of last week, the Marshall Project documented more than 9,400 cases of COVID-19 in U.S. jails and prisons, and more than 140 deaths. An account tracking prison data puts the figure higher, more than 18,000, and staff prisoners infected in the 45 states providing data. The known infection rate in jails and prisons is about 2.5 times higher than the general population as of this week. 8 of the 10 largest outbreaks in the countries have been correctional facilities. So if you scroll through, and this is a great article by the Washington Post. It goes through the numbers state by state, and it shows that there's no state yet where prisoners have been tested where less than 50% of the prisoners don't already have the disease.
That's right.
So that's right. Devastating. And it's a great article, and I'm not going to go through all of the numbers, but nearly a quarter of prisoners tested in Tennessee have tested positive. Overall, 20% of the prisoners tested in Tennessee have blah, blah, blah. Yet 16 correctional facilities surveyed in TV station, 11 had tested, 5 or few prisoners. So again, not only are they finding, like in Ohio, they found, Ohio is the only state that's doing statewide testing. Like, they're trying to test every single prisoner, and they're coming at 70% in their numbers. So most states haven't tested more than a 20% of prisoners. And from what I understand, right here, this is what I wanted to see. So Ohio, is one of the few states currently mass testing. The results are astonishing. In one facility, more than 2,200 prisoners and 174 staffers tested positive. At another, nearly 1,500 prisoners and 93 staff. As of this week, 4,072 of the 6,375 inmates and staff of the state have tested positive, an infection rate of over 60%. So 60% of Ohio. And we're the only ones doing mass testing, which is scary.
60% of their prisoners have coronavirus.
So, okay. And so this is where the conversation gets to be more devastating when we're talking about this in the context of being in the United States. And I think everybody knows what I'm talking about. We happen to be number 1 in incarceration in the United States, that and probation. And a lot of our prisoners are in prison based on technical probation.
That's right. That's
and
right.
So actually that reminds me, that fosters another question for me, Cassandra. I'm curious, tell me more about, because I would like to know, I don't really know much how the prison system works inside of bail or waiting for awaiting trial. And I understand your husband was awaiting trial. How does all that work? What was he awaiting trial for?
Let me tell you this. I know here in Chicago, and it has to be the United States, what they want convictions. They want convictions.
Oh,
it's not even about what the person has did, because what the world don't know, no matter how bad Tom Dark tried to put my husband's record out here, my husband was offered time where so he would have been home in 2 years. So obviously he didn't do something that bad if you guys were going to let him out in 2 years. But the way that the news is just dragging him, like he was just this horrible person, but that's just to overshadow the fact that they murdered him. So, and I totally understand, and I'm not embarrassed. I stand at each interview, and I don't mind. Go ahead, you can try to slander his name, but I'm going to continue to go back to the fact that he was murdered here.
Yeah.
So to make a long story short, they have offered my husband several different offers. The most recent one was 2.5 years, but he didn't want that conviction because he said that he was innocent and he was going to go to trial and fight for it. It's a lot of young men and women that's still in here right now because they won't take a conviction. If they take a conviction, they saying go free. We just want a conviction. That's all it's about. It's all politics here in Chicago. They do not care, and I'm quite sure it's like that around the whole United States. But I only can speak on what I do know, and this is just a horrible. And just to go back, if I may, please, what you guys were saying about like 60% and 70% of the population. Let me tell you, the tier that my husband was on, I promise you, I still talk to some of the gentlemen on there. And it's so sad that each one of them tested positive. You know why? Because they're still in this death trap together. They didn't sanitize when my husband left, and they was very much so aware that 3 men had the coronavirus that left this tier. So you just throwing other inmates in there, and guess what? It's just going right to everybody. And it's so sad because I spoke with the gentleman, because don't forget, the Cook County Jail, or no representative from there even told me my husband was gone to John Stroger. An inmate called to tell me that my husband had to call.
Wow.
Yes. An inmate called to tell me, my husband had him to call me to tell me that he's now gone over to John Stroger. The same inmate that called me, he is now suffering with the coronavirus. And what makes it so sad is that I tried to call for him just as recent as 2 days ago to let them know that he's going through the same thing. And it's like my heart is just breaking over because now I'm talking to another person that had a sore throat, that had a fever. Now he has chills. I'm still trying to encourage him. So it's like, this is just devastation over and over for me. And I'm like, oh my God. And they're still not answering the phone. I'm like, really? 6 people have died. It took for 3 to die just for them to get face masks. It's like, what can we do?
Yeah. And by the time they got those face masks, everyone in there is already
they already infected.
They're already
Didn't you I read in your petition that the 2 men that had been indicating illness also died.
They were detainee number 1, detainee number 2, and my husband, unfortunately, was detainee number 3. So just imagine my pain. Had one person answer for me the second week of March, maybe 3 people would not have died.
Yeah.
Maybe 3.
Did your husband, I'm curious, did your husband have any underlying conditions, any pre-existing health conditions?
Let me tell you this. I have his medical records that I was blessed to have. I also have his doctor, as John Stroger, was absolutely wonderful. He will give me a statement saying that my husband arrived in a severe state. Had he made it there sooner, like when I started calling or when he first got the first symptom, he still could be here. No, he didn't. And I don't know if you guys saw it, but Mr. Dart put out that my husband died of cardiac arrest. I received his report from the medical examiner office yesterday, and also it's listed on his death certificate. My husband died of a result of contracting the coronavirus COVID-19. He did have pneumonia, but the medical examiner wrote it as pneumonia as a result of COVID-19.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, totally.
Which makes complete sense.
Because the virus attacked his lungs. And as I was talking about earlier before you came on the show, what they're finding now is that the virus can attack any organ of the body. The lungs we can see because people are like, I can't breathe. But if you have a blood clot, if your kidneys are failing, if your heart is failing, you can't see that. It's not obvious. So people are walking around symptom-free, symptom-free
for the moment.
For the moment, they're symptom-free because they're breathing.
Yes, exactly.
Their kidneys could be failing. They might have a blood clot that's about to go to their brain. They might, be about to have a heart attack. Or, your husband had pneumonia as a result of the virus. The virus attacked his lungs.
Right.
Yes, it did. And the last time I spoke with him, he only could say maybe 3 words, and then he would have to put the CPAP machine back on, and he'll say another 3 words. So I just told him just to lay back and relax, and I prayed with him, and I just told him how much I loved him and how thankful I was to have him, and we are blessed with a wonderful son, and I just, a family that loves him and needs him. But God saw fit for something different. But I'm just blessed to have those words and those memories of the last conversation, even though I never would want to hear another human being like that, because my husband, he really couldn't breathe. And this virus is serious. It really is. It's a serious thing.
So your husband was a generally healthy adult human.
And I also
I promise you.
What's also there for me, and there's 3 minutes to noon, so we're going to be going a little bit over here, people, because I want at least 2 more things. One thing to be pointed out, and we can discuss it, and it can be quick, but I think it's very obvious for me. It's kind of the elephant in the room, and that is that the Black and brown communities are way more impacted in our prison system right now. And the moment Cassandra, when you said he couldn't breathe, suddenly my mind went to Eric Garner, right? And it's instantly, right? And I want to point out some numbers on that too. And I know that I feel like we all know this, right?
Yeah, but it's important. It's important to repeat it over and over again.
Do we all know that
until it's memorized in everyone's mind?
Among white people, 450 per 100,000 are in prison. Among Hispanics, 831 per 100,000. And among Blacks, 2,300 per 100,000.
450 for white people, 2,300 per 100,000.
Right. I had to point it out because it's glaringly obvious. I really do believe that this is it is really important because anybody who's underprivileged, especially economically, is going to be suffering these issues, right? These exact issues. And unfortunately, because of the way our criminal system is set up, and because of the way our officers are trained, and because of decades and decades and decades of racism that this country has been built upon, Black people are in, did you say 5 times? 5 in prison, 5 times more. So now we can have 70% of those prisoners are likely to get COVID, and then those families are forever impacted. Generation after generation after generation. And that's some bullshit. And so I don't know, Cassandra, if you have anything to say on that topic before we move into talking about how we can help your cause and this cause as just the general population.
You know what I'm going to do is I'm going to continue to just shed light on what's going on. And I believe that getting the word out here, and if you notice, we have an adult son, I never bring him with me. You know why? Because I'm scared of what the Chicago police might do, or somebody to retaliate against him as a young African-American male. Yeah. So I would rather be out here with my face, because even though we have a lot of females, African-American females, we do have racism, against us as well, but it's not as bad as the males have it. So I would rather be on the forefront to shed light and to expose all the corruptness that's going on in this jail system, because it's absolutely horrible. I mean, when I can tell you, I have been on the phone several times with my husband when the guards are just talking to them like they're absolutely nothing. Yeah. And it's just horrible. So that's why I'm out here, because I feel like, why keep them in this place knowing that they could catch this virus and die? Let them go. Let them go. It's just inhumane. So I don't want this to happen to another family. And if there's anything I can do just by standing out here with the sign just showing my husband died, I tried my best to help him. I can't help him anymore. But guess what? The same gentleman that we're looking at right now that's banging on the windows for us, and they made them take the signs down, but we can still hear them. They're banging on the windows. I'm out here for them now. I'm out here for them now, because I can't say my husband is over with for that. But in his memory, someone is going to be held accountable. He will not die in vain.
Yes.
I can't let them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And then, so Cassandra, tell us, you know, as community members in Chicago and community members of the human race, like what can we do to help this cause?
Just please come stand with me. We're stronger in numbers. Just come stand with me, and we can get more petitions out here, because you know I don't want to be a Tom Dart or Tony Preckwinkle basher, but they are held accountable, because even though they might not really know what's going on in the jail system, you have to understand, if you hired these people and you're the head, you're overseeing this, you have to come and see, because everybody is just not dying and catching this virus because your employees are doing the right thing.
Right.
So you have to be held accountable. You have to be held accountable. And like I said, I don't want to bash anyone, but my husband's death could have been prevented. Guys, I was calling the second week of March before he even got sick. My husband didn't have a symptom until the very end of March. March 29th was the first symptom. Had anybody helped me? Had anybody taken my 132
I was
phone
going to say,
calls?
how many phone
Serious?
calls was there? Because I don't even mention it.
And let me tell you this. The reason why I know how many phone calls is because the day that my husband died, after I was just sitting there and I was in disbelief. I went through so many different emotions. I went from devastation to just confusion to like, I just don't believe. I kept calling the hospital back because I wanted to make sure like he wasn't in a coma or on a ventilator. Like, are you saying that he's dead? I couldn't believe it. So I said, I just wanted, you know how sometimes you need reassurance for yourself. Like, did I call enough?
Right.
So I pulled up my phone records, and when I got to 70, and then I got to 80, and then 100, then 120, I said, no, Cassandra, I have to turn this pain into power. I have to get up now and do something. He was murdered. He was murdered.
Right. Absolutely, he was murdered. His death could have been prevented, especially with the warning signs. 132 phone calls. No, unacceptable.
No,
Epic fail. Unacceptable. No pass.
Fail. No pass.
No pass.
That's right.
So you're standing outside of Cook County Jail.
Yes, I am.
Okay.
At California and 30th. And
Yes,
on
ma'am.
Tuesday, you are having a special event. Because
Yes.
it would have been your husband's 43rd birthday, correct?
Yes, ma'am, it would have been. And instead of me telling him happy birthday like I always do, and how much I love him, and just singing to him on the phone, I just have to stand out here in his memories and continue to fight for him now.
So any of you who want to join Cassandra on Tuesday, what time are you going to be there?
I will be here. Well, I will be here earlier, but it starts at 11 a.m. sharp in front of Tom Dart's office.
Okay. 11 a.m. sharp on Tuesday. Bring your masks, bring your gloves, bring your own pen. Bring your own pen if you want to sign a petition.
Right. Yeah.
Please.
Exactly. And then there is an online petition as well that I will make sure gets into our link.
Into the description. Awesome. And
any last thoughts, Cassandra, before we wrap it up here?
Well, I just want to thank you guys for allowing me to tell Nicholas' story. And also, he's not detainee number 3. His name was Nicholas Lee, and he had a wife that really loved him. But unfortunately, Cook County Jail found him guilty, and they gave him a death sentence here, and immediate death. He didn't even get a chance to go to the Supreme Court to ask for a stay of execution. He got an immediate death.
Yeah.
So I just ask you guys, please. I understand and I respect everyone's opinion, because some people feel like he was where he needed to be. All I ask you is just to step out of what you feel about what he may have did, and just think of him as a human and ask yourself, did it warrant him to die?
Yeah.
That's all I ask. So with that being said, thank you so much. And I'm here every day. Please feel free to join me, even if it's for 5 minutes.
Yeah,
awesome.
Thank you so much. My prayers and my blessings are with Nicholas and with you and with your son.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, and
deepest condolences, and I will be seeing you in person, in flesh.
Yes, you will. Thank you.
With extra masks.
With extra masks.
I'll be here.
To our viewers, please join us. Come out, meet Cassandra, and stand with her for Nicholas, for the prisons, against the prison system, for the prisoners in there, the people who don't need to be in there, don't belong in there.
Absolutely.
And don't need to be dying at the rate that they are. And subscribe to our channel.
And
like us.
And reach out if you have any show ideas.
And share the video with everyone. Everyone. Cassandra and Nicholas' story.
Awesome. Thanks, you guys. Thanks, Cassandra.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Peace.
Bye-bye.